The Weight of Forgotten Rivers. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, its edges yellowed as though it had traveled through decades rather than postal routes. Clara's name curled across the envelope in her mother's handwriting, a handwriting she hadn't seen in 12 years. The postmark read Briarwood, Ohio, a town she'd scrubbed from her maps, her dreams, and the brittle chapters of her memory. She arrived in Briarwood at dusk, the sky bruised purple where the hills swallowed the sun. The town clung to its decay like a stubborn child, the diner's neon sign flickered "Eat" as if it were a plea, and the river, the same slate-gray serpent that had swallowed her brother, still carved its path behind the old train tracks. Clara's boots crunched over frost-stiffened leaves as she walked toward the two-story colonial at the end of Hemlock Street. The house leaned slightly, as if ashamed of its own emptiness. Her mother's lawyer, a man with a voice like rustling tax documents, had called it an inheritance. Clara called it a trap. Inside, the air tasted of dust and mothballs. She traced a finger over the piano in the parlor, its keys chipped like broken teeth. A photograph sat framed atop it, Clara at 14, her brother James grinning beside her, both of them ankle-deep in the river. She'd torn her copy of that photo to confetti years ago. "You came back." The voice startled her. In the doorway stood Eli, his hair now more salt than pepper, his face a road map of wrinkles. The owner of the bait shop by the river, the man who'd pulled her from the water the day James drowned. The man who'd said, "It happened so fast," as though speed excused tragedy. "I'm not staying," Clara said, too sharply. Eli nodded, as if he'd expected this. "Your mama left something for you. In the cellar." The cellar door groaned like a thing in pain. Clara descended, her flashlight beam slicing through webs and shadows. The trunk sat beneath a tarp, its brass latch green with age. Inside, she found stacks of journals, her mother's, and a child's shoebox filled with river rocks, each painted with clumsy flowers and stars. James's collection, she realized, her throat tightening. But beneath the rocks lay an envelope, sealed with wax. The letter inside was a confession, inked in her mother's frantic script. "Clara. I watched him slip. I watched, and I didn't move. The current was so loud that day. I thought it would be easier if he disappeared. If you both did." The words blurred. Clara's knees met the dirt floor as the memory surged, her mother on the riverbank that day, staring blankly at the water, her hands limp at her sides. Clara had always assumed she'd been paralyzed by shock. Now she knew better. Dawn found Clara at the river's edge, the shoebox heavy in her arms. Eli joined her silently, his presence neither a comfort nor an intrusion. She hated him, Clara said, not looking at him. James wasn't easy. He broke things. He screamed. But he was just a kid. Eli sighed. She hated herself more, I reckon. Afterward, she'd come to my shop every week. Bought fishing line she never used. Just stood there, staring at the river like it'd give her answers. Clara knelt, letting the rocks tumble into the water one by one. The current carried them away, tiny, painted galaxies swallowed by the rush. When she stood, her hands were empty, but her chest felt fuller, as though she'd traded stones for breath. "You staying?" Eli asked. This time, she hesitated. Above them, the Briarwood Bridge cast its skeletal shadow over the water, and Clara wondered if forgiveness could live in places where love had failed. "Not forever," she said. "But for now." The river kept its secrets, as rivers do. But somewhere downstream, painted rocks glimmered beneath the surface, proof that some burdens are meant to be carried away.